Hello, friends. It's time for our News and Voices in Agriculture program here on the Northern Ag Network. I'm Lane Nordlund. And when we return, we'll talk with Mr. Ben Thomas, the new Director of Agriculture in the state of Montana, and discuss his impressive resume and his plans to work with Montana's farmers and ranchers and rural communities. We'll be right back. Governor Steve Bullock has appointed Ben Thomas to be the director of the Department of Agriculture in the state of Montana. And I talked with Ben on the phone this week, and he discussed his upbringing in agriculture and his education.
So I've worked in agriculture in various capacities for most of my career. I grew up on a farm in the Texas Panhandle, about an hour west of Lubbock, a town called Morton, Texas. We had cotton, peanuts, wheat, sesame, many other crops, diversified farm. After undergrad, I went to law school and just found myself drawn back to agriculture. So I got a specialized degree in food and ag law at the University of Arkansas and got my first job in D.C. as a program specialist at the Farm Service Agency, working on the dairy programs, marketing assistance loans, some of the conservation programs.
So you may be asking the question, how is Director Thomas tied to Montana agriculture? Well, he served as the advisor on agriculture and telecommunications for Senator Max Baucus.
And that was just about the time we started in earnest on what was then the 2013 Farm Bill, ended up being the 2014 Farm Bill. And that's what got me out to Montana for the first time, coming out here, meeting with producers, other stakeholders about the Farm Bill policies and, what they wanted to see in the next Farm Bill. And that's how I grew to love Montana and the people here as well. After the Hill, I moved to USDA. I first was Chief of Staff for Farm and Foreign Services, so focused a lot on trade, but also implementation of Title I of the Farm Bill, which is where the farm programs are located. And then I was Deputy Undersecretary for Marketing and Regulatory Programs, which is the Ag Marketing Service, the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, and the Grain Inspection, Packers, and Stockyards Administration, which was a great experience for me. Aside from being a great leadership opportunity, it was a chance to get to know other programs and policies, many of which are very, very relevant here in Montana.
And we'll talk about those relevant issues and Ben Thomas's plan to work with farmers and ranchers across the state. Ben Thomas will lead the Montana Department of Agriculture, and he just shared with us his impressive resume and experience in working in agriculture and trade policies. And trade is one of his top priorities to help grow Montana agriculture.
Trade is one of my top priorities as director. In my position, I don't have the authority to go out there and craft new trade agreements, but there are two things I can do. First, I can work directly with the folks who buy our goods and remind them why they want our grown in Montana goods in the first place. Whether it's wheat, pulses, barley, or beef, it's top quality. And maintaining and building on our relationships is critical to maintaining that market access. Secondly, I think it's important for all Montanans, farmer or not, as well as the Trump administration, to understand the potential benefits of expanded international markets for Montana. More trade just means more jobs in Montana, particularly rural Montana. But the worst thing we can do on trade, I think, is nothing. If we just sit back, we stand to lose market access that we already have. So I want to be aggressive here, whether I'm in Helena, D.C., or anywhere else in the world, in advocating for our homegrown goods.
He also wants to help producers focus on crop diversification. We'll have more with Director Ben Thomas after this. Director of the Department of Agriculture in Montana, Ben Thomas, was discussing the opportunities he sees for Montana's farmers and ranchers, and one of those is crop diversification. Of course, we are seeing the expansion of pulse crops across the state of Montana, and Director Thomas also wants to see rural businesses grow as well.
For example, Growth Through Ag have supported small family-owned, value-added businesses in Montana. Right now, as you know, much of our product is out of state for processing, and the more jobs we can bring back here, the better. So I'm a big supporter of Growth Through Ag, the Food and Ag Centers, and other programs to see if we can find a way to continue growing industry in state. Also, the Farm Bill, as I mentioned, I have a long history in both crafting Farm Bill policies, implementing them, but also running them day to day. My role is very different here in Montana, but I hope to be a resource for Montana producers who are looking to put their ideas, like, for example, improvements to ARC, PLC, the main farm programs, how they can put those ideas to paper.
And Director Ben Thomas also looks forward to working with Montana's grassroots agricultural organizations.
In my time working for the Montana delegation, I really learned the value of working closely with these groups. They're true grassroots organizations and have great insight into how policies impact farmers and ranchers on the ground. So I plan to maintain and build our reputation as a department, which is already excellent, and part of that includes affirming our ties and coordination with all of these groups. It's just critical to have open lines of communication with the entire range of ag production.
Again, that was Director of Agriculture for the state of Montana, Ben Thomas. I'm Lane Nordlund.